Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the View 52 Challenge. I am your host once again, Jack Pinchuk, and with me, I didn't prepare an intro. Again, that's like the usual thing, because I always forget to do that. With me once again is Alex, as we make our way through the world of classic cinema. Alex, how are you doing today?
I've been here the whole time, Jack. I remembered to put on a shirt seconds before we started rolling. But other than that, I'm very good.
That's fair. It's been I'm sure it's been a day for all of us.
Sure.
Melissa is also joining us today. Melissa, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm fairly tired because I'm on little sleep, and it will be interesting trying to remember all these movies and hopefully speak in coherent sentences.
That's the vibe here tonight. Let's get it. Oh, we've got someone. Oh, yay, Spence.
Yo.
Yo. Well, once again, we've got we've got a whole month's worth of challenges to go through. We've got a film released in 1943, a film by Powell and Pressburger, a film featuring Jack Lemmon, a documentary, and a film that takes place over the course of 24 hours. Definitely some interesting choices were made for these here challenges. So let's just get into it. A film released in 1943. You know what? Let's start with you, Alex.
Sure. So it's important to remember while we go through the world of classic cinema that not only that, we all follow our interests, and I think one of my interests, the kind of stuff that inspired the stuff that I like, and one of my favorite movies, this is true, no lying, is Van Helsing. Y'all remember Van Helsing? Hugh Jackman?
Yeah, okay, yes.
Beckinsale. Yeah.
Okay.
Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman was a huge moneymaker in the year 1943. This is true. It is also the most boring movie. It is a movie that revolves entirely around its title of Frankenstein, of Frankenstein's monster fame, and the Wolfman coming together. Now, like every good monster movie, they wait until there's about 15 minutes left before they actually meet and eventually fight. And then, honestly, from there, it all gets pretty hazy because it's also very boring from there. There's really nothing to this film. It is the most I don't remember it film probably of this entire month. But I will say this, it is still interesting to go back and look at things like this because while we tend to follow our interests, it's also kind of interesting to see like what exactly was popular in the day. And what was popular in the day was like spectacle films. Like people wanted to see that transformation to the Wolfman. They wanted to see what Frankenstein looked like. They wanted to be taken to this like vaguely Eastern European kind of place and go to like a festival. And that's the kind of stuff that like people were apparently clamoring to see back in the day, despite the fact that besides those specific elements, there's really nothing to the film at all. Like, we could have written the script in like a day, shot it. The effects aren't even particularly that good. I remember the first Wolfman transformation being like, oh, it's just 3 different photographs. Like, you didn't even take a bunch of different photographs. It's just little hair, big hair. He's the Wolfman. It's not very, impressive in any sense. I don't recommend anybody really watch it, but I think I'm still correct for picking it in a Alice in Wonderland kind of way.
I get that. And honestly, now that you explain yourself, it kind of makes a little bit of sense as to why that was the movie from 43. And totally fair. Fair take. Or fair pick. And you know what? It was one of the more out there choices for this for this month, or the challenge in general. Just one that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be picked outside of a challenge that was maybe a universal classic monster film. But no, I'm glad we got to it. I wish I had seen any of the Frankenstein and or Wolfman movies leading up to it.
There were a lot of them. There's a lot of movies like this of
know,
just 2 monsters.
They're right there. They are right there. I just haven't seen them.
Yeah, there's also like a lot of Abbott and Costello stuff that's like out there where they're just like running around. It's it was like a whole industry.
Yeah,
Go ahead. I was just gonna say I like my Abbott and Costello when they're directed by Denis Villeneuve and Squid Aliens, but that's okay.
Yeah, I just recently rewatched that. Actually, it's a great movie. I for the Universal like monster movies, I actually really haven't seen a whole lot of them. I've seen Frankenstein a really long time ago. I need to rewatch it, but I have not seen the Wolfman. So I felt like maybe I was missing some information, but maybe not really. Like still just kind of jumping into this movie, not really knowing much about the Wolfman. It still worked. It was fine. But yeah, it's fairly forgettable. I thought the makeup effect was pretty good, actually. And it's also just like kind of crazy to think about that he's just laying probably in that bed for like hours as they're just like slowly adding makeup to him and like filming. Like I don't know how long it took, but I'm sure it took hours. And like it's not amazing, but that's like the one highlight I would say is like, okay, that was somewhat cool, but it's fine.
Fair. Totally fair. Well, with that, we can move right along. We'll go to the not slightly, I would say significantly better, but we'll see. Not the best movie for this week's challenge. Go to mine. Five Graves to Cairo, a 1943 movie directed by Billy Wilder. It's one of the Wilder movies that no one ever talks about, and I get why, because it's not one of his best movies. However, it's still very good. There's some great tension in it. You've got Anne Baxter in it, and I'll watch anything Anne Baxter does at this point. You've also got Franchot Tone. I'm not pronouncing his first name right, but I just don't know how at this right now. He's the guy from Mutiny on the Bounty that's not Clark Gable or Charles Lawton. He's in it. It's I watched it a little bit ago. I don't remember a ton of it, but I didn't dislike anything. It had my attention the whole time. I was pretty invested in the story. It's just in comparison to other movies he's made, Sunset Boulevard, The Apartment, Lost Weekend, like you've got some all-timers there. This just isn't at the same level as those. It's not his worst movie. I still probably put Irma la Douce below it because it's, way too long. But this movie, while not one of Wilder's best, it still boasts some strong performances. And also, Akeem Tamaroff is in it, and he's he's in a couple of Ingrid Bergman's movies that I've seen, specifically Anastasia and For Whom the Bell Tolls. That's the one. And he's great. He's great in those, and he's pretty good in this too. So there's that. Either of you have anything to say about this movie?
I would much rather watch Irma la Douce because that movie's at least fun and entertaining. This movie, I would argue, is equally as boring and forgettable as Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. Personally, it's maybe more well made, and there's some better people in it, but I think it's like I don't remember anything about this movie. But I also watched it like 6 weeks ago, probably.
Fair. Once again, I apologize for having to postpone the show a week.
No, you're fine.
I completely forgot that my family gathering was like this weekend, or that last weekend, and I
no need to apologize.
Yeah, no,
it's all good.
That's on me. Anyway, Alex.
Yeah, I think this movie's like it's more of an experiment than an actual narrative. It's just like how much tension can you build before you have to do something with it? You know what I mean? Like they give you like a lot. It's like a big crock pot, this movie. They just like keep putting stuff in this like big like pressure cooker. And they're like, all right, nobody touch it. Nobody's gonna move. Nobody's gonna do anything. And it's just like waiting to see how long that's gonna go before like, hey, we're running out of screen time. We're running out of tape. We have to wrap this up somehow. I always look at the Wikipedias for every single one of these pages just to see like what do people think about this. And apparently in 2008, Quentin Tarantino listed Five Graves to Cairo as his 10th favorite film of all time.
Interesting.
And I think I think Five Graves to Cairo serves as like a template for a bunch of the movies that Tarantino has made that people don't like. Like just a bunch of people in extremely close proximity to each other. I think of things like oh god, now I'm not remembering any of the fucking movies. The fucking Western that he made, The Hateful Eight. I think this has a lot in common with that.
Oh, that's okay.
But in the sense, in a critical kind of way. Like, please do something, or I'm losing interest. Like, I don't care anymore.
Sure.
It just goes on, and it actually feels longer than it actually is, and it doesn't really arrive at anything meaningful by the end. It's just, here is the ending. And you're like, oh, okay, well, good night.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, now we can move to the most interesting, I think we can say, of the movies that we watched this month, and definitely the shortest. Melissa, tell us about Meshes of the Afternoon.
Yeah, so this is a short experimental film. It's only 14 minutes long, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's probably fairly easy to find, and it's short. But kind of the opposite of what Alex was just saying with the last movie. This movie's short, but man, it packs a lot in there, and there's like a lot to take from it. But it was directed by a wife and husband team, and it's very like, I don't know. You could interpret it probably a million different ways. I've only seen it the one time, but I definitely would like to rewatch it and geek out on it more than I have. But it's definitely like this psychological journey type of thing with the main woman, and there's definitely a blend of like dreams, reality. It's kind of hard to know like what's what. Definitely manipulating with time. And you can tell this is very like influential to people probably like David Lynch, maybe even Christopher Nolan, because I feel like a lot of his movies have to do with time. I could see him like seeing this in college and just being like, all right, I'm gonna make my whole career manipulating time in my movies. But yeah, there's a lot of abstract ideas. It's definitely like an experience type of film. It's kind of hard to explain, but I highly recommend it, and I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, what did you guys think?
So I watched this short the other day, just yesterday actually. It was the first of 10 movies I saw in the last 24 hours to finish the movies before the show, because this month has been bonkers for me. Yeah, so I loved it. I think it's got some incredible camera work, some incredible shots. The I don't know if it was just an issue with me, but there was no sound to it. It didn't bother me at all. I think that it's interesting. It is the word I would use to describe it. And something clicked for me about halfway through, where I realized I had seen this before, but I hadn't. And I'll tell you why. Because in grade 12, I was in film studies in grade 12. And we had to make these like short films for our final project. Like, it was the semester long project. We made these short films, and they were screened at like a local indie theater as like our film festival. It was great. One of the people in my class just straight up like took shots from this movie and recreated them for their short film. Everything with the key in the mouth and like the knife as well. And like I realized, I'm like, okay, I see what you did. But no, it's a very well done short. I want to rewatch it again, and honestly, I can see myself doing that soon, because it's 14 minutes long. So yeah, it very well done. And I see what you did there, Derek. I see what you did there.
I'm gonna call the guy out. So this was a very interesting 14 minutes for me. I tend to stay out of the kind of surrealist film vibes. I think we ran into this with that other fucking movie that you made us watch.
Color the
Pomegranates. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And this one actually, I think, was a little bit more my speed. And I think the reason of that is because it touches on things that really bother me specifically. That one of the big things in this movie is like a feeling of deja vu, a feeling of like I've seen this before or I've been here before. And also the feeling of someone's been in here. Like this thought of you open your door and you're like, that's definitely not where I left that. This is not supposed to be here. This is incorrect. This is cosmically incorrect. So that builds a lot of anxiety and tension in my brain specifically. So I don't know how well this would translate to other people necessarily, but I know for me it was like a really kind of haunting experience of like, I've seen that person before. I don't know him, but like we've crossed today. Like all of these things that are kind of ineffable, and if you tried to explain them to someone, they'd be like, it's probably just a guy. He's probably just here. Like, you're both here. You're probably just having the same day. And you're like, no, this is not, you're not hearing me. I think I'm in danger. This movie kind of plays with a couple of those different concepts of, if I tried to explain this to someone, they wouldn't be that concerned, but I'm really concerned. And it just like builds and builds and builds. But I think it's smart to go for 14 minutes because that's how long it would feel if it were a dream. Mm-hmm. It would feel very short. It wouldn't have any kind of like audio, or it wouldn't have very much. It would just be, and you'd be like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And then you'd wake up. that would be the conclusion of it. So I thought it was like a really interesting, smart way to play this. I don't know how I actually feel about the movie though. I didn't rate it on Letterboxd. I logged it, but I didn't know, like, because it was so against type for me. This is going to be one of those things where I just go, I don't know. I thought it was wild, which it is. It's kind of wild to look at.
It's like exactly my taste. So
Yeah,
I'm glad to keep bringing these to you guys.
We've got great taste. I'm just
great taste.
That does it for that week. As we move on to the next, super easy here. We all picked the same movie. That's always nice to see, especially when you have to watch all the movies in like 2 days. So filmed by Powell and Pressburger, directing duo of the classic era, behind movies like The Red Shoes and 49th Parallel, which is great. Most people haven't seen it, but it's great. And also the one we all picked, A Matter of Life and Death / A Stairway to Heaven, depending on which title you're familiar with. Who wants to kick it off?
I can, I guess.
Sounds good.
Well, I kind of cheated a little bit because I might have seen this earlier this year, because I just couldn't wait. but yeah, I mean, basic plot synopsis is this pilot, or it's like it's set during World War II. He basically survives this, like, he's supposed to die because like the plane is on fire and like going to crash, but he cheats death and he's alive, and he, in the meantime, as the plane is like crashing, he is having this conversation with this girl over the radio, and they fall in love, and then he basically has to defend for his life, with like this incredible I don't even know what to call it, because do they like call it the place, do they call it heaven? I don't really know what they.
Yeah, it's
I mean, okay, I couldn't remember what they had called it, but yeah, I mean, this movie is incredible. It's a masterpiece in my book. I think the set design throughout is just absolutely gorgeous and incredible. I feel like Powell and Pressburger movies, they have like this otherworldly feeling to them in a way, at least from the ones I've seen so far. Like it almost doesn't even feel of this world in a way, but at the same time you could tell it's like a movie set at the same time. I don't know, it's this weird blend of that, but I don't know, they're just so incredibly talented, and I can't get enough of their work, in particular this movie. This was technically the second time I've seen it, and it's so good.
Yeah. This movie rules. So I had heard of it. I had heard it's like both black and white and in color, and I was curious to see like how that worked in it, and the way they use color and black and white cinematography in this movie is really creative and really interesting. You've got this angel, I guess, I don't know how to describe him, this one French guy who's dead. He comes back to Earth to collect David Nevin. David Nevin, yeah, the main guy's soul. And I think the first thing he says is, Alex, what's the line? So, you're sorely lacking for Technicolor up there. I don't know, but it's that line. I don't know. I had it in my head and then it just left. It's a great line. It's a great line. The performances are all great. Kim Hunter is in this movie, and it's always great to see her. Maybe not so great in a few weeks when we have to watch one of her movies twice, Alex. But you know, we'll get to A Streetcar Named Desire when we get there. She's great in the Apes movies as well. But no, she's really good in this. I love the production design. It is really like, it's so creative in this movie. The court courtroom sequence, the production design in that sequence is great, specifically in that one. The performances are all incredible, especially David Nevin and the Doctor. Also, it's kind of funny just seeing every. It's the idea of. I think this was in Melissa's review. The idea of people hating Britain more than hating America is kind of funny. So there's that. But no,
I don't
it's
know if that was me, but
it might have been. It was in someone's review on Letterboxd that I liked. I thought it was funny. But no, incredible movie. I was almost like I was crying a little bit at the end. It got me. It's got one of the sweetest endings. It's a beautiful movie. I can't wait to rewatch it again, and I can't wait to watch more of Powell and Pressburger. They're incredible. Alex.
Oh, okay. That's yeah. So yeah, there's this kind of like this genre that I think is interesting, but I think that the opposite of it is more interesting. Like cosmic horror, like there's something out there and it hates you and it's strange. Then there's this like the opposite of that. I think would be much more interesting to kind of deal with. There's something out there and it wants you to be happy, but there's still rule. Like the kind of cosmic love of this movie is something that I found really appealing. This concept of like, oops, we made a mistake. All right, let's talk about this. We can figure it out. We'll give you a shot. The performance was really good. I really liked the sort of staging of it. It's like we've seen stuff like this before for the show, stuff like Cabin in the Sky that built like a similar kind of staircase. And this Stairway to Heaven just goes like they had more money to do it, so they just made it nicer. They just dressed it up a bit better. If it's gonna look like a set, make it pretty. Like I don't care. Like I already know I'm watching a movie. Don't try to like make it look real and then it's bad. If it looks fake already, just have it look fake and nice. It's fine. Yeah, I liked this movie a lot. I do think it is a masterpiece. It's so pretty to look at. It is one of the most gorgeous movies I think I've seen from this era. From like the close-up shots, the kind of messiness of houses. They don't waste any kind of time at any point. Everything is really well crafted. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend it.
yeah, and I just wanted to say something that Jack brought up about like the black and white and the color. I love that they kind of, to me, almost did the opposite of like, I feel like in most films, like Earth would have been like in black and white, and then like Heaven would have been in color, and like I liked that it was kind of opposite here, and yeah, I really love that aspect of it.
Yeah. Also, I did find the review I was talking about. When I go to reviews on Letterboxd, it is directly below yours, Melissa. It's Holzman's fiance. Her review for the movie, which great. I thought. Anyway, I thought that was a good one. Anyway, so I just wanted to clear that up. No,
You're good. I was just like, I don't think I wrote that, but maybe.
I'm very scatterbrained today.
You're doing great, Jack.
Why, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. With that, we'll get on to next week's challenges. A film featuring Jack Lemmon. We'll save you for last, Alex.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll start this one off. I haven't started one off yet. So I picked Days of Wine and Roses, which I had heard is like one of the best performances Jack Lemmon has ever done, and he was nominated for Best Actor for it in '62, and that's like one of the greatest Best Actor classes ever. And so that was like a huge part of why I picked it. Also, when I picked it, I was wanting to watch more Blake Edwards, and after seeing this and Breakfast at Tiffany's, I don't know if I really want to watch more Blake Edwards. He's just not really my guy, I don't think. I will say this. The performances in this are great. That's not my issue. I think the script and the direction are kind of messy. I think there's scenes that feel almost cartoonish, and that's not something I particularly liked. I'll say the greenhouse scene is probably some of the best acting Jack Lemmon has ever done. The scene that immediately follows that is one of the cartoonishly like overdone scenes that I was referring to in the asylum. It's, I don't know. There you've got some actors that I recognize from other things, like juror number 6, I want to say. I can't remember exactly. Maybe juror number 5 from 12 Angry Men. He's in it. He's his AA mentor, basically. He's great. I can't remember the name of the actress who plays his wife, but she's very good in her role. It's a very devastating performance from her. But my issues with this movie start and end basically with the screenplay and with Blake Edwards. I don't know. He's just not my guy, it seems. Maybe I'll like the Pink Panther movies more, but I don't know. I was a little let down by this, but the performances are all solid. And if you were to say Jack Lemmon deserved to win Best Actor, I'd still probably disagree because, Gregory Peck, To Kill a Mockingbird, incredible, but I wouldn't be upset. Alex and or Melissa, how do you feel about this one?
Do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I don't care.
I'll say what I have to say, because I think you have like you probably have more to say than I. I think this movie is the biggest load of bullshit. I feel this way because I watched Days of Wine and Roses and I was left kind of cold on it. Like I probably colder than any movie that we would have seen this month. I didn't think it was particularly great. I didn't think it was particularly bad. I just thought, oh, okay, that was a movie. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, that doesn't work. This doesn't work. Oh, that doesn't work either. Oh, what were they thinking with this? And then I decided that Days of Wine and Roses probably is like one of the worst movies we will have seen for this series. I think the only if Days of Wine and Roses, if you saw it with Jack Lemmon and all, like everything, if you saw it as a high school play, you'd be like, that was pretty good. But as a major a major Hollywood production, it's terrible. I think Jack Lemmon has one solid acting moment in the greenhouse, and that's great. But every other thing in it, and even that moment, is something that is so unlikely to have happened to someone. Like you see it and you're like, get up, get up off of the floor. This is probably not that serious. The treatment of the wife character, I thought was like bullshit. The ending made me mad the more and more I thought of it. I'm glad I wasn't angrier in the moment, but if I had been as angry as I am now, I would have just cut to credits. Please just stop. I did not care for Days of Wine and Roses. I think it's a high quality Dare video. It's just a really high quality Dare video gone
Oh my
wrong.
god, yes.
How do you do, fellow alcoholics? No, absolutely not. Get out of here, Jack. Get out of here, Jack Lemmon.
Oh, that got me. That was really good.
For a second, I thought you were talking to me.
No. Yeah, I agree with both of you. Like I think this script and direction is a mess, and yeah, it's definitely one. The more and more you think about, it's just like, what are we doing here? I had a very similar reaction like I did with The Lost Weekend, but The Lost Weekend is significantly better to this. But like, I just think this is like a heavy subject matter, and unfortunately, I just feel like the execution of it all, it just came off insensitive and like in a very like negative way for me. But it's weird because again, I do think the performances are fairly good, so it feels very disjointed in my mind from that respect. But yeah, I just feel like a lot of the scenes and um, things just felt a little phony. Cartoonish is a good word, like Jack said. I don't know. This one just didn't work for me. Um, my understanding is this was like they had a televised version, like a TV movie of this prior to like a theatrically released version, which I would be interested in seeing it because apparently it's fairly good. It's with Piper Laurie and Cliff Robertson, which is interesting.
Oh,
So
I actually see that one.
Carrie's mom and Uncle Ben.
Yeah, like
Huh.
what the hell?
But apparently like that's why it got like I don't know if greenlit's the right word for back then, but like they were like, oh, let's make it into a bigger movie. And apparently those two names were not household names or whatever, like known actors. That's why they hired Jack Lemmon, and yeah, I also don't remember her name either.
Lee Remick.
Thank you. But yeah, I don't know. This one just didn't work for me, unfortunately. It's a mixed bag, mostly bad.
Fair. With that, let's shift to a significantly, I would say significantly better movie. But Melissa, tell us about The Odd Couple.
Yeah, this feels like a big blind spot type of movie because it feels like a lot of folks in our community have seen this. And it's definitely one of the more well-known Jack Lemmon kind of performances, even if you don't know Jack Lemmon that well. So I just felt like I needed to choose this one for this week since I had not seen it. I thought it was great. I mean, him and Walter Matthau's chemistry is just off the charts. Like they just play off each other so well. And it's definitely one I can see myself rewatching. It's definitely a comfort movie type of vibe. Like I could totally see myself watching this like when I'm sick or wanting to lift my spirits. I could throw this on and feel a little bit better. At the same time, though, with how funny a lot of the kind of scenes are in dialogue, I did not realize how dark the opening was going to be. I was like, holy shit. Because Jack Lemmon's character is like contemplating suicide, and it's fairly heavy at the beginning of the movie, kind of in the same respect as like The Apartment. I don't know. So I loved this. I thought it was great. I don't know what much more to say that hasn't already been said about the movie, but yeah, they are truly an odd couple, and it works great.
Yeah. This movie worked for me. It really did. I love Lemmon and Matthau. Like we watched, or what was the Fortune Cookie? One of the it wasn't. It wasn't one of the movies we saw for this, right? It's just one that I ended up seeing. Okay, well, the Fortune Cookie is another one of their collaborations. It's a Wilder movie from 60 something. I can't remember. Matthau won Best Supporting Actor for it, which is really cool. This movie rules. Their chemistry in this movie is so contagious. I love them so much together. We've all heard that is not a spoon, that is a ladle line before. We like there's iconic lines. It took me 3 hours to figure out the FU meant Felix Unger. I love Matthau in this. I love Lemmon. Here's the thing. The director of this, his name is Gene Saks, I believe. And it's weird because I've only seen one other movie that he's done, I'm pretty sure. And it's called Cactus Flower. And both this and Cactus Flower open with someone attempting suicide. And I don't know if he's okay, but it's a little concerning. Both are great movies. Don't get me wrong. Cactus Flower is a great movie.
I was gonna say I choose that later in the challenge, so we're watching it again.
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry. I'm sorry. That's
No.
the opening scene. So like,
No.
not really a spoiler, but like,
No,
yeah.
no. Just so you know, so you're
Yeah,
gonna see it again.
I had just completely forgotten about that. Wow. Oh yeah, there it is. That's my bad.
You're fine.
Anyway, he's a really great he's a great director, but like Lemon and Mathau are so good in this movie. The the triple play scene cracked me up a little bit. He's saying it's an emergency. Mathau turns his back and misses like one of the greatest plays his commentator or his journalist buddy has ever seen. And Lemon was asking what he wanted for dinner. I don't know. There's some really fun moments in this movie. I had a great time with it. Watched it last night. This, along with Days and Wine and Roses, were also movies I saw last night. So that's it was a good time. Can definitely see myself watching it again, and can definitely see it climbing my list of like favorite comedies on rewatch. Alex,
Time to rain on this parade. I don't know, gang. I didn't particularly care for The Odd Couple. I mean, I'm not gonna ask how old either of you are, because I think that would be unfair. But I watched a lot. I was a TV. I wasn't a movie. We were a TV family, and we watched a lot of stuff that popped up on like the WBCW kind of thing, and The Odd Couple gave me such a weird flashback to watching episodes of like Everybody Loves Raymond or King of Queens, shows that are, if you have seen a season of it, you have seen the whole show. So like it's, just kind of like television that is made for incredibly passive consumption. And it was so strange to kind of go back to that, because The Odd Couple is not like doesn't have an active plot. It is just two men who are very opposite from each other living together. And as a plot boy, I just kind of sat there for a while. And it's not that Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon aren't funny. They are quite funny. And it's not that they don't have chemistry. They have a fair amount of chemistry. It's just, what am I going to do about the pot roast? Isn't really like a lot. It's not particularly interesting to me. Hey, I got us a date. I hope something happens on that date. Please, something have happened on that date. And it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And I actually did not particularly care for the ending. That's neither here nor there. But like the three, like the like 4 episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond that is The Odd Couple is such a strange movie to me, that I can't like actively recommend it, if that makes sense. But I don't think it's particularly bad. It is an enjoyable movie to watch, probably for a lot of people, but for someone whose brain will like devolve into please do something, 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 I really did not. I didn't. It's not for me. I just couldn't. I couldn't crack it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think those are all fair criticisms.
Yeah, that's totally valid. Holtzman also not the biggest fan of this movie, so you're in company there. I don't know if it's particularly good company. No, I'm just kidding. I love Holtzman.
By the way, Gratz Holtzman, I'll send you a message later. He's not here, but I'll send you a message later.
He's not here, but yeah, congrats. man got engaged. Good for him.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah. Alex, you
Mm.
picked the movie that I would say is the most interesting of the ones that we watched for this here challenge.
Yes.
Let's well, not for the challenge as a whole, but for this specific
Hit me with a title card, baby. Hit me with a title card. So, How to Murder Your Wife. I think I'm gonna bring this up later when we talk about a different movie down the line.
Okay.
If you're going to go ridiculous, it has to be relatively small scale. That is important. Because you can't ruin that many people's lives. Right? If you're going to ruin someone's life, it has to be just like a couple of people. So, if you are a like happily single guy in a comedy made in the 60s, odds are you're probably going to get married and it's going to be like weird and interesting for you. How to Murder Your Wife goes the what if you marry an Italian woman who does not speak English that you met that night while she was jumping out of a cake route. Movies. And what follows in a very kind of roundabout way is him experiencing a very 60s movie kind of, 60s comedy kind of marriage. He starts gaining weight. His wife takes over the house. She gets a dog. She spends his money. But it's actually not that bad. Like, he's not miserable. He's just, things are different now. He liked the way it was before, and things are different now. And he gets more and more fed up, not with his wife, but with how different things are. And he devises a plan to murder her. And this leads to a trial where he has to defend his plan. And he does successfully. And if the movie, and I'm going to say this, I'm only spoiling this part of the movie because I think it is important to defend why I liked it so much. If the movie had stopped with him being declared not guilty, I would have hated it. I would have thought, this is bullshit. This is not cool. I don't like how I was on board and then I fell off board. And I cannot swim, so I drowned. However, there are 3 or 4 more scenes that, like, after that explain that actually, on the other side of it, it wasn't that bad. He kind of misses he kind of misses aspects of it. He was actually perfectly happy. He just was complaining. And that's fine to complain. Like, he was actually perfectly happy with his wife. He just had gripes. That's fine. And then the ending of it kind of brings it back to a somewhat comedic place. And I honestly think it's pretty funny throughout. In a weird way, like, it reminded me of a Hispanic marriage, like this like interracial marriage that these people that I'm friends with. This guy married my cousin, this white guy, and his life changed in very similar ways to Jack Lemmon in this film. And it reminded me of that, and it reminded me of a lot of marriages that I'm kind of aware of. And again, I think that the ridiculousness of it, I think, is helpful because it's ridiculous in a way that is fantasy. Like, oh, that, wouldn't this be neat? But when it's still grounded enough that you're like, sure. You never lose touch. At least I didn't. maybe, and I think that this is one of those where I'm going to be the lone person on this hill going, no, it's good actually. Wait, I can explain, and maybe I can't. But I think there's something to this kind of ironic view, like absurdist view of this specific marriage. I think there's something to it. I think Jack Lemmon brings something to it. I can't remember what the Italian woman's name is, the actor.
Verna Lisi? I don't know if I'm saying
Sure.
that right.
Sure. And I think honestly, her performance is actually really interesting because you look at it and you're like, it would be fine to be married to her. Like, I think a lot of people would be happy to marry. And I think that's kind of the crux of it, is like he's miserable, but only because he didn't think this through a lot of the, necessarily. But once he's like there, it's fine. It's fine for him. Yeah. How to Murder Your Wife, I would classify as like a pretty darn good time.
I wish I did.
I know.
And like you explaining it was way funnier than my experience watching it. And like the premise is funny. Like I could see why it got like made into a movie, because like I could see this being a good pitch. But I don't know. For me, the execution of it didn't really work. But it could be one that on a rewatch, maybe I would like it or see it differently. It's hard to say. But like the day I watched it, the mood I watched it in, I just didn't think it was funny. I thought it was like really hard to get through. I feel like, yeah, maybe there is something here in the sense of like trying to be satirical with like marriages and stuff like that, but I, I, I don't know. It didn't really work for me in that way. And I don't know exactly what that thing is that's like missing. Like in some ways it kind of reminds me of The 7-Year Itch, but like I liked that movie so much better. Like I just thought that was way more well written, and like I don't know. Like I just couldn't really get behind this movie. But I will say I think the wife stole the show. Like I thought she was so cute and like so captivating. Like I didn't even really care that much about Jack Lemmon in this movie. Like I was way more about her.
So it's actually really funny you bring up The 7-Year Itch, because The 7-Year Itch and How to Murder Your Wife share a screenwriter, George Axelrod. Yeah, so that is probably very intentional that the writers have that in common.
Yeah, so that would be an interesting double feature.
Yeah,
that would be an interesting double feature. That's for sure. I guess we're down to me. Alex, very high on that movie. Melissa, not at all. Where am I gonna land? I'll tell you what, I'm closer to Melissa, but like I didn't hate it. I think so. Context. I had finished what's it called? The Odd Couple late last night. I had to pick my sister up from the city nearby because she went to a concert, and I got home at about 12:15 my time. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. I'll watch the rest tomorrow. I woke up. I had set an alarm so I would be able to have time to watch the rest of the movies tomorrow. I woke up, rolled over, opened my computer, and opened Movie Box and put on How to Murder Your Wife. And this movie starts with a narrator basically saying women belong in the kitchen, and then it goes from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a real thing that happens in that movie. Jack Lemmon is clearly having a fun time, and I don't blame him. He's having a good time in this movie. He's given the Jack Lemmon performance, and he's very good at it. That being said, I found this movie to be, it felt longer than it maybe was. There's scenes that I thought didn't work. I was not sure like the whole like there's a sequence in this movie where he drugs his wife at a party, like gets her to bed and whatever, and then he takes a mannequin that's basically like it looks exactly like her pretty much, like the hair and everything, and he does like a dry run for the murder to see how it would work, which like sure, whatever. Why would you get your former like butler or whatever that guy was, former roommate, I don't know, to take pictures of it from the hotel? That's something I didn't totally.
So okay, I can somewhat explain that. The Jack Lemmon's character is a writer. He writes comic strips, and the comic strips are based on stuff that Jack Lemmon does. So they have they have pictures of it, so they can like reframe it, the picture as the.
Okay,
as the
yeah,
they do that in the opening with the first book.
that makes sense. That makes sense. I must have missed. I must have missed something. I don't know. But that didn't totally click for me. That makes a little bit more sense now in my head. That you say that, but the movie didn't totally work for me. A lot of the comedy didn't work. That whole scene at the gentleman's club, I guess, I don't know how to describe it. The where his wife goes and shows up in the change room and with all the men there. That whole sequence didn't really work for me too much, but like whatever. The trial is something else. His lawyer, like, I don't know if he just like stops representing him like at the like time when the verdict is gonna be read, but he puts his lawyer on the stand and he becomes his own lawyer, and he demands to be acquitted for, and he confesses to the whole thing, and he demands to be acquitted for, and I quote, justifiable homicide. You can't make this shit up, man. Like this, it's definitely weird. In like, I don't know. This kind of movie definitely wouldn't be made today.
No.
But like, seeing it is interesting. That ending goes from his butler or roommate. I don't know what their relationship is even.
Yeah, it's his butler. It's like it's Alfred.
Yeah, his butler, Sir Hiss from Robin Hood. And other Disney characters, I'm pretty sure. Sir Hiss from 1973's Robin Hood is his butler, and he sees the shoes on the ground outside the house. He's like, "Oh, she's back." He goes into his room, grabs a gun, and is like, "Here, finish her off." And Jack Lemmon's like, "No, it's fine." And then the movie ends with him going to see his wife, which it's all over the place. I give it like 2.5 stars. It exists. I saw it. I liked parts of it. I didn't like other parts of it, and the rest just didn't make sense. That's it. This movie is something, and I'm glad you picked it because it's the Alice in Wonderland logic. But you know what? You had 2 of those this month, and you know what? Here we are. Let's move on. Week 34, a documentary. I'll start. I think we'll keep the same order for this one because I feel like I have the not necessarily the least interesting, but like it's just a documentary about a presidential race, which doesn't necessarily sound like the most interesting out of the ones we picked. So I'll start. This is about the race between JFK and Hubert Humphrey. Is that the dude's name? I don't know American politicians.
Yeah.
That guy for the Democratic candidacy, I guess, for president. And it's 60 minutes long. It's really interesting. It goes into their different campaigns, and it's honestly like a kind of an interesting behind the scenes look at the two candidates and how they go about campaigning. It's also really interesting as a Canadian to see what politics in America in the 60s looked like, campaign songs and all. So there's that. I'm glad I picked it because Boatman and Coho had seen it, and they both gave it 4 stars or something. And I agree with those ratings. Like that, it's very well done in what it's trying to do, and I found it interesting. The other two are definitely more interesting concepts for documentaries, but I'm glad I picked this one. I makes me kind of wish that maybe campaign songs didn't die out as soon as they did, but there's that.
No, we
Alex,
don't need those.
Melissa,
We specifically don't need those. This is a really boring movie. This is remarkably boring. I think the major problem with Primary is that I don't believe any aspect of it. Coming from a documentary, that's a very strange thing to say, but like you follow these guys and they're on the campaign trail. They're going to different towns, going to like these like rallies. Hubert Humphrey's just meeting people on the street, which seems like a very ineffective use of time. But like he's just out there. How are you, young man? This is and then you've got like Kennedy in his gymnasiums and like on television, and he's like meeting people at the door, which is probably more productive. But I don't know anything more about either candidate than when I started.
Mm-hmm.
This movie follows like a couple weeks of their time, I think, or like a month or so of their time, and it's a very boring month. Like, it's so boring that Hubert Humphrey takes a nap in his car and they film it. They're like, yeah, this is fucking compelling. Fuck yeah. I just don't. And then the ending is also very like, well, the ending is like, well, they gained inches of ground, but they're pretty much right where. I think, what was the point? If we there was no like breakthrough, there was no moment where they like, oh my god, Kennedy's pulling away with it. Holy shit! It's just, yep. There's Hubert Humphrey. Oh, Kennedy's doing the same thing. Great. Cool. And it just goes on for a bit, and then it ends on the night that the primary happened, and you're like, all right, cool. The next date. What's the next date gonna look like? And it just ends. Oh my god, who could possibly care?
Yeah, I don't have much to add because I agree with Alex. I think this is a fairly boring movie. It's fine. I feel like JFK is like one of the most like beloved presidents, and like it just shows that like people were nutso about him even before. I'm just like, okay. And I had no idea that this movie would share something with a Goofy movie, so that was weird. So that was really weird for me. I was like, okay,
you're not wrong. That's the thing.
But yeah, it was fine. It was fine.
That's fair.
It's a movie.
Yeah. Fair enough. Melissa, you have a premise for the premise for yours is significantly more interesting than for mine. So tell us about 7 Up.
Yeah. So 7 Up is a documentary series because I guess there's more. I didn't actually know that once I picked this, but I don't remember how many other. I think they did it like 2 or 3 more times. Anyways, it's about these British children, mostly around age 7, and they're being interviewed and asked kind of different types of questions. And yeah, there's a few more documentaries after this that I think it's like every 7 years or something like that that they like interview them. But kind of the same group of people. But I don't know. It was interesting kind of just hearing a child's perspective on some of the answers. Even if you don't agree with what they're saying, but this one was just very interesting. Like I left kind of just going, huh, okay. Like I don't know if I would watch it again per se. Like I don't really remember like the specifics, but like I thought it was fairly cute and like just interesting hearing a child's perspective on some of the questions that they asked. But yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so while I was watching this, it became pretty clear pretty early on that this was like just like the first chapter of them doing almost like a documentary series about these kids every 7 years. And I looked into it a little bit, and I found 8 more.
They kept going.
Okay.
Yeah, like
I couldn't remember how many.
The most recent one is from 2019 called 63 Up. Like they're
Holy
still
hell.
Yeah, they're still tracking these people
every 7 years, and I think that's super interesting. And so I'm gonna check out the rest because there's 7 plus 7, 21 up, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, and 63. And by the time 70 up comes out, if that ever does happen, I'll have seen them all and can watch that. But no, it's definitely really interesting. There's a moment in it that kind of took me aback that Alex references in his review. So but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's
Yikes.
It's yikes. There's 7-year-olds in Britain, but like still yikes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. It was interesting. It got me interested in the rest of them. So like I'll check them out, see what see what I think of the rest. Alex, tell us about 7 Up.
It's kind of a cute like premise, the idea of let's get these kids from different backgrounds and let's see how they progress. They'll meet each other. They'll see how like they'll be like, oh, like they'll be from like different sides of town or different sides of the country, and some of them will be a bit wealthier, and some of them will be a bit poorer. But they'll like meet each other and they'll play. And like I thought that was interesting. They also asked these kids some questions that like don't ask that 7-year-old that. That 7-year-old doesn't like that 7-year-old's not in control. And it really like they're like, oh, do you some of the questions are quite cute. Like, oh, do you have a girlfriend? And the kids are all, or do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a boyfriend? And the kids are like, oh yeah. Well, it's complicated though. Like the kids are like, they're tiny. Like, yeah, it's complicated though. He lives on the other side of town. Or like one of the kids is like, yeah, but I don't know if it's gonna work out. We go to different movie theaters, and that's really that's not gonna work. I don't think it's gonna work. And then they asked it comes at like the very end, and there's this little girl that I'm like, this girl's fine. She seems to have her head on right. And then they go, how do you feel about colored people? And she's like, I don't really like colored people. And you're like, no, don't air that. She's gonna be embarrassed about that presumably, and when however long. But then she also says like, but I don't know any. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to like. You're like, oh, this kid's not in control of any, They ask him what their favorite foods are, and then in the same conversation, they ask him what they think about Black people. Like, it's not, these kids are having a very strange experience. And apparently they're going to continue to have one. I'm reading some of their, like, descriptions, because they do track the same people for, like, this is, I think, done by the BBC at this point. Or it was at one point. Yeah, at one point, and then it's just like television films. Um, and they had a lot of them lead very interesting lives. It's interesting to see like what their starting points are. But I think you do like I think for a proper kind of explanation, you do probably have to see all of them because it would only be strange if you captured someone at 7. Like my only perspective of that little girl is, oh yeah, she has a bow in her hair, but she doesn't know any black people. Like that's such a strange, life to have led. That's such a very isolated part of her life. She didn't talk for a percentage of her life, a significant percentage of her life. Let's leave her alone. Let's see what she's like at 21 or something. I don't know. Yeah, but otherwise it was cute.
Fair enough. Alex, we're gonna stick with you. Last documentary on the list here. Documentary? I guess it counts. Yeah. Man with the movie camera.
So documentary is such a limiting word, I think, for what man with a movie camera is. Because it is a documentary. It does follow a kind of idea, very much like let's take 7 kids and just ask them questions, or like political, which is let's follow these 2 candidates. The idea behind Man with a Movie Camera is what all can we do with the camera? And I'm holding up my phone because my phone has a camera on it, and I think that's important for a Man with a Movie Camera because they do a lot of what they thought we would do with the camera in Man with a Movie Camera. They capture a lot of the things that we're still interested in. Like they capture, scenes of people eating. They capture scenes of people like I think one of the first shots is actually like a woman like taking off or putting on a bra. Like they capture all of these like things, and they also show you like how they captured it. I think the people that made this would be like incredibly fascinated with the concept of I just have one of your favorite things in my back pocket at all times. At any point, I could like make a segment in Man with a Movie Camera. And I think that Dziga Vertov would like really, really love that. I think a Man with a Movie Camera loves loves the concept of what it is you can do with a camera, and just goes on and on showing you different things that you can do and how you can do them. And I think it was really quite inspirational. I think I've said before on this program that like the thing that got me into movies was actually the Lord of the Rings. And I love the Lord of the Rings, but it was actually the DVDs that you would get, and they would show how they made it. And they show how like difficult it was, and how like, oh my God, look at that. And I still think, oh my God, look at that. Man with a Movie Camera is on like a different axis of that, which is look how fucking easy. We just point and shoot. And it can be more complicated than that. But for most entertaining purposes, you can just, we're doing it now. We each of us have a camera right here in front of us. And they just decide like, let's just see what it is that if we can entertain. I don't know. I found this really, really cool, very inspirational. I think if I had seen this, I would have taken a more active interest in like filmmaking, as opposed to just film enjoyment. Because how I started was, God, that looks hard. I should really appreciate that. The Man with a Movie Camera it's so easy. Do something with it. And I think that is also very inspiring.
Yeah, I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was fantastic, and yeah, it's very influential to like today's filmmaking with different editing like techniques and just camera shots and that type of thing. And as a self-taught amateur editor, it's very inspiring, and like I just love the little camera tricks and things that they're able to do in this movie. Really, my only criticism is like it felt a little long and repetitive, but I feel like that's kind of nitpicky, and I think that's more just when it comes to silent films, it can be a tedious thing to do, just because you really do need to give it its focus to like enjoy it fully. But no, I thought this was fantastic, and it really reminded me of, I'm gonna copy and paste the name because I'm totally gonna butcher this. Okay, it reminds me of this movie, Koya. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
just
I
gonna,
don't know how the hell
uh,
that's supposed to be pronounced.
well, I've seen the movie, and it's very similar in the sense of like it's just all these different like images of everyday life in the, I believe, in the 70s. And fun fact, Madonna used it in one of her music videos in the background. But it very much reminded, like, that movie probably would have not been made without Man with a Movie Camera. Like, it very much, I would say, influenced movies to come that are more like experimental or more simple in its narrative. But like, I thought it was great.
Yeah, this sorry, distracted for a second. This movie's great. I had heard about it on like for years. It was on like several lists of like most influential movies, or like directors lists of like movies that inspired them or something like that. And so I had heard about this movie for years. I didn't know what it was really until Alex here picked it, and thank you, Alex, because this was a treat. It's just there. It's not really. It doesn't really have anything going on in it. It's just this guy capturing different things, and it's really interesting to watch. It's one that I feel like I did a disservice to by watching it like in the middle of the 10 movies I watched in like the last 24 hours. Because I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember as much of this movie as I wish I did, because it's great, it's very well done, but it's one I want to see again. I feel like there's a lot. There's some really cool shots in it. Yes, that's the movie.
That movie.
I don't know how the hell you're supposed to pronounce that, but you know, whatever. Oh goodness, I'll have to check that one. I'm gonna try to add that to my watch list if I can figure out how to spell it later. But no, it's a really well done movie, and for a movie in 1929 to like almost 100 years ago to influence a lot of people and how they move the camera, how they shoot different things, it's really cool to see. So I really like this. Thank you, Alex, for picking it. It's one of the
Yeah, thank you. Great.
one of the better movies we watched this month. So I'm very glad we did that. This is why I love this challenge. You get to see movies you might not have seen otherwise. So yeah, I loved it. Now for the last one. We're in the home stretch here. A movie that takes place over the course of 24 hours. Alex, I know you just you finished.
No, it's
off.
fine. I'll go first. I don't. This is not. It doesn't. I don't.
All
I
right.
don't
For any of you that like this movie, go away for 5-10 minutes, because you're not going to like what the panel, for the most part, has to say.
True. It is. It's okay. More so than probably the other movies that I've trashed today. I think this movie has the most positive qualities. I really liked the mayhem. I liked that they set up these like buildings. Okay, I should explain. It's Mad World is a film in which people find out about a buried large amount of money that they intend to split. They can't decide how they want to split it up, so everyone is just like ready go, and whoever gets there gets to keep it all. And because they're unprepared for this, things start to go wrong immediately. They have to cut deals with everybody, more and more people find out, more and more waves of people find out about the money, and so everyone is trying to come in and collect. By the end of it, half the fucking country is trying to get to the money, it feels like. This movie has like only two sides. There's nothing in the middle about this movie. It is stuff that is good and the stuff that is bad, and there is nothing in there that you're like, yeah, no, I thought this was okay. This is good and this is bad, at least in my opinion. I liked the mayhem. I liked the idea of setting up like buildings in the middle of a desert and then being like, all right, destroy it. Because you can tell, like we were talking about this when we talked about It's a Matter of Life and Death. I could tell that was that the staircase, that all these things, I could tell these were all sets. I knew that I was in a sound like studio. I knew that this wasn't real. I could tell that half the buildings in this movie are buildings that were made specifically so that if you push someone into that wall, the wall would, fall flat. I get it. And on that level, I really do like that kind of mayhem. I thought all, the mayhem that, I thought that all that was good. However, I think this movie would work better if all of the characters were Looney Tunes. Because that's really what this movie is. It's a Looney Tunes movie, or like a Muppet movie masquerading as a like grand adventure film. And I think putting humans in it actually hurts the movie. There's a couple different versions flying around. I watched the shortest version, and it was incredibly long. Oh my god, I can't imagine sitting there for 3 hours. Oh my god, 3 hours of it? No. By the end of it, because there are so many people involved, there is no caring about it, really. There is no connection you have to it. It is just mayhem. It's an avalanche, this movie. And I think that hurt it, at least from my perspective, because as I said earlier, we were talking about How to Murder Your Wife, I think it was. If you're gonna ruin lives, it has to be a small number. You can't have ruined all of these people's lives. That's just insane to me, how many people like lost their job for this. Oh my god. I can't say that it is unenjoyable to watch. Really, parts of it are quite funny. Parts of it are very hokey vaudeville. Like, there's a thing in a plane and there's a bug. And they start destroying the plane because there's a bug, and they kick through the plane, and you're like, ha 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 ha. Oh my god, really? Just the rickety planes, British, like the most obtuse of all humors they tried to put in this movie. Everyone is a caricature. No one has people are characters, but they don't have any character to them. They are just British guy, mother-in-law, high-pitched wife, hippie. Like, they're just these different archetypes. Why isn't this guy picking up the phone? He's doing this a lot. It's just a lot of that kind of humor interspaced with like buildings being flattened And police being like, we should step in at some point. Like it's a lot of it's a lot of that. So much to the point where I didn't even realize, holy shit, that's Spencer Tracy. Holy shit, that's so and so. And there's a couple of people that I'm like, oh my god, I was so busy being bored that I didn't even pick up on the fact that it was a famous actor that I liked. Yeah, it's such a weird experience, this movie. I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the things that you said. I never thought I would compare these two movies, but I feel like this movie is very much like Suicide Squad in the sense that like there's too many damn characters and
Sure.
it just doesn't work at the end of the day because there's just too much, way too many characters, and it's just like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, let's clean this up a little bit more. Like, let's have a focus. Like, yeah, let's too many people involved. But no, I would say like the most positive thing to say about this movie is the stunts. Like, it's pretty incredible the stuff that they were able to do in this movie because like it's definitely not happening in today's world. A lot of these stunts and things that occur in this movie are absolutely like CGI these days. So like that was very fun to see, and like also kind of terrifying that like I'm sure people got hurt maybe filming this.
Sure.
I don't know for sure, but like yeah, it's just some of the stuff they're doing is wild and like kind of nerve-wracking to watch because there's like nothing, like just no safety kind of stuff involved. At least that's the impression I get from it. But yeah, I think this movie felt really, really long, really, really long.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a like, yeah, it was just hard to like get through because it felt so long. And I wish it was funnier. It just, this type of humor doesn't really work for me.
Do you think it would be funny if they were Looney Tunes? Like if it were Daffy, like if it were
maybe
I just mean like if they were like an anime, it could be more expressive in that way of like when someone gets hit, their head gets knocked out, gets like stretched out over there and then their body goes. I just think like there's, I don't know. I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying there. Like in the medium of animation, it could take it to the next level in regards to like the antics of it all. But I don't know. Yeah, this movie was an interesting experience, and yeah, I did not enjoy it for the most part. Again, I thought the stunts were like commendable and like fun to see, but I don't know. yeah, sorry, Bar. This was just not. This was not. It was not the movie for me.
Yeah, Bar, you came at the wrong time. We talked about The Odd Couple, and that we liked that movie for the most part, other than maybe one person. But
That's fine.
I just remembered the line from The Odd Couple in the opening that made me laugh. But whatever. Okay, this movie is so fucking long. It's like, here's the thing. There's parts where I was really enjoying myself. Like I was like really liking what I was seeing. And then there were portions of it where I'm just like, wow, there's nothing going on. But like the 10, 15 minutes leading up to the intermission is like just pure chaos. And it like at 11 out of 10 in just chaos. It's insane. And I love it. But there's just so much in between that I'm just like, this feels unnecessary. It just feels like it's making it really long. Spencer Tracy is in a room for most of this. He doesn't really get anything to do. It makes me sad because I love Spencer Tracy. But there's some fun performances and some really, like, the stunts are the best part of this movie. The stunts are incredible and it's really cool to see, but it was just long. Like, I liked this movie when it was an hour and 10 minutes shorter and released in 2001 and called Rat Race, if I'm being honest. I'm sorry. This just, I don't know. Maybe it was just a little overhyped for me because a lot of people have it as like one of their favorite comedies and like favorite movies of this era, and it didn't work for me. It's my least favorite Stanley Kramer so far. Although the man made Judgment in Nuremberg, so like it was hard pressed to beat that. So, it's just it's a movie that I think will be. I'm sorry, Bar. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry. It's a movie I think will go up on rewatch. I just have to find time for that.
I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think that would be true.
Don't want to watch this.
No. Another what 2:30 maybe 2:15. Nah, that's all right. Thank you though.
Yeah, I don't know what version you watched, Alex, but the version I watched was on Movie Box, and it was.
You watched the 3-hour version? Oh my god! The
version I could see without paying money.
It was on.
Streaming. The only other version of it. The only other like place I could stream it was Tubi, and that would just make it longer because there's ads. So I took
there was on it was on Amazon here, thankfully.
Not here.
For a bit, and I got the right version. Oh my god, 3 hours. Oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. But all in all, I think it's a movie that will go up on rewatch. It's just I have to find time for it. And there's a lot of movies before that happens. Oh no, one in the comments. Yeah, so Melissa, we'll go to you next. We'll finish with mine because I really like that one. But Melissa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you're a little choppy
why
for me.
Why is the banner not? Oh,
I think it's because your internet. But I don't know. Sorry. Okay, I'll just start talking. Yeah, I chose La Notte, which means the night, and basically it's an Italian movie, and it's about this married couple, and it's kind of as the night unfolds, just how like not well their relationship is. It's not good. This movie weirdly reminded me of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but like Italian version. But like I prefer Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf like so much more. But certain aspects of it kind of reminded me of it in a way. I guess the difference between that movie is like they very much confront all their feelings, like maybe too much, like it's like a scream match, versus this movie it's these two people that literally are not communicating to each other for like the majority of the movie, and it's like very passive aggressive, and not showing a lot of emotions. I saw a Letterboxd review that was it got me, it made me laugh. It was like hot people deep talking. Correct. I just felt like this movie, I like wanted to like it, but I don't know. I don't think it really worked for me. I just felt like these two leads were just two miserable people that like I was having a miserable time watching it. Like, sure, there's some nice dialogue here and there, kind of some poignant things that are said, but like, and it's like the film itself is like lit nicely, and like the cinematography is really good, but I don't know, I just felt like because there's such an emotional disconnect, I feel like between the two characters and like what is actually portrayed, that like it just didn't really work for me. Like I never got the feeling that these two were ever in love, so I just didn't really care that they weren't like in love and being unfaithful. It just seemed like they, I don't know, like yeah, this one just didn't really work for me, and maybe I need to rewatch it at some point, but I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah. I gave this 4 stars, and I think it's closer to three, and like it's a low 4 star. Like I could probably switch it to 3.5. I usually give myself like a day or two to like if I feel like my feelings have changed slightly, then I can change my star rating. But like this is probably more of a 3.5 if I'm being honest. The performances are solid. I don't really have anything there. It's the story itself is fine. This dialogue is pretty good. I've got no issue with that. It's just I don't love these two characters. The performances are great. The characters aren't great. I wasn't a huge fan of the characters, but what is it with the lead actor that I think every movie I've seen him in, he's an Italian man that wants to cheat on his wife.
Yeah.
In every movie I've seen him in. Divorce Italian Style, 8.5. This, it's like, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
He's just typecast as an Italian cheater. I don't
guess
know.
So. He's good at it. He's good at that role, but like, oof, my guy. It's one that like I'm glad I saw, because like I'm always for like watching more foreign films. I want to watch more international cinema. I always think it's interesting to watch more of that, but like I'm glad I saw it. It's just I don't think I'll revisit it. Also, a bunker? Really? That left me scratching my head a little bit at the very end, but that's okay.
This was a drag. Not gonna lie. The notes, whatever. It's not. It's. I really, by the time it was over, I really empathized with kind of the wife's first 2/3 of the movie, because I was also looking for something interesting to happen. And she spends so much time like looking for any kind of like new story, new thing to like grasp onto, this like, trying to recapture the echo of whatever it was that made this relationship work on a level that they thought, let's get married. And she's like, hey, there's some kids with fireworks. You liked fireworks, right? Like, it's so it's on that level. Like, I completely understood it, but she just so far and away outacts what's his name, Marcello Antonioni or something.
Yeah.
She's so far and like blows him out of the water. So where you get to his scenes, and his scenes are, ooh, there's a pretty girl over there. She's playing bowling. I don't know. Let's go see. His scenes are so boring in comparison to hers, which are these like long. It's like a pick your poison. Do you want a long, ponderous scene about, young men breaking up a fist fight and then being like, oh, I shouldn't be here? Or do you want, what are the rules to this game you're playing? Huh? Let's bowl. It's just like a really tonally, it's very strange. The script doesn't really have much to say about anything, I don't think. It's just like different scenes from a marriage. Like, it's just different, like, oh, they separate, they're apart today. I don't know. I didn't really care. I haven't really cared for most of the Italian movies we've seen for this challenge. And I think this is just another one to add to that list of like, I guess I remember seeing it. I don't know. It's fine. It's not for me.
Yeah. That's fair. Now we'll get to the last movie for this month, for the challenge this month. A movie I hope we can all say is better than Lenote. Lenote. I don't know how. I think it's Lenote. Movie that proves that you don't need a plot to make a movie good. Cleo from 5 to 7. I like a good plotless movie. And you're kind of just following Cleo through this day, or through like 2 hours of this day. And at first, this character is like really unlikable. She seems very vain, very narcissistic. But like the more I watched this movie, the more I kind of warmed up to her as a character. I think the performances in this movie are all great. I've said that a lot tonight, but like specifically Cleo, I don't remember the actress's name off the top of my head right now. It's my first Agnes Varda movie, but like I'm in. Like I want to watch more of her work now. So like there's that. I think. Oh,
Plot
Not
boys,
no.
as you said
No.
earlier, that you're a plot
Yes. Yes. Alex.
Oh,
is a
I'll talk here in a minute. Don't worry.
get the purple sunglasses, Alex. Get the purple sunglasses. Anyway, this movie, I had a great time with it. It's one that I can see going higher on a rewatch. I really enjoyed it. Also, when we get to Cleo's apartment and there's just like 6 little kittens running around, I'm just like, yes, adorable. I love cats and kittens especially. But no, so that was nice. Just a really enjoyable time. I can see myself rewatching it shortly because it's 90 minutes. That's not much time. It's, half the time at least of It's a Mad World, and that's really nice. So Alex, Melissa, I don't know which one you want to go first, but
Yes.
Are you
Oh,
going to be positive?
the outfits in this movie, the costume design in this movie is fantastic. Love it.
I'm gonna be positive,
Okay, then I'll go because I think we should.
but I
should
also
end this
messed
one.
up. Which
Uh-oh.
But go ahead.
So I'll just talk, very briefly. As we mentioned before, I am a plot boy.
I am plot boy.
I am plot boy. That will be our next shirt. And so I think I've also said this on the show. I don't really struggle with the concept of like mortality. Like at least mine. I don't really struggle with that aspect of this like concept of I'm here now, but at some point I won't be. I should be terrified of that moment. I don't really struggle with that as much. I'm very ready to die. Any one of you, please come take me out. So the idea of following someone around while they're waiting on bad news sounds very boring and unpleasant to me. They do find certain scenes that I think, okay, this is like a thing. Cleo is a musician by trade, so she has her friends come out and work on a song, and I think the part where her ordeal starts influencing the kind of music that she wants to make, which is not the kind of music that they are there to make. That's actually really interesting, a really poignant scene. She goes from this like very hokey like song to this like very serious material. I thought that was interesting. I thought that scene was very good. However, this movie could really, really go for some plot. I don't even not even like a main dish of plot, like just like a little side of plot, just to really thicken this up, because otherwise you are just following around, like you're just waiting on someone to get the bad news, and then at the end the bad news is like you'll be fine. The outcome that she gets is like, we'll deal with it. It'll be, it's not really that serious. Don't worry about it. It's, we'll manage. And she's like, oh, all right. And then the movie, continue, ends, and you're like, oh, all right, well. So yeah, I can appreciate what it's going for, but I can be going down the stairs. If I trip and fall halfway through that, like I'm still in a fair amount of pain. It's, I think I've said this a couple times. It's just not my kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is not ridiculous in, it has no ridiculousness to it. It's actually very, fairly serious, but it's also not, it's not so dramatic either. Like, it plays such a strange mood. This, like, almost like if there was an American version of it, you could only really get Marilyn Monroe to be Cleo. Like, you could only get her in that specific moment of her career. Yeah, I don't know. A somewhat frustrating movie, I would call Cleo from 5 to 7.
I get it.
So about 10 minutes before we went live, I realized I made a mistake.
Oh no.
I forgot to rewatch this movie because I have seen it before.
Okay. That's
but I totally forgot to rewatch it. So I will probably watch it this weekend because I do love this movie. So I watched it for the first time, I think like a year ago, probably. And I guess from what I remember, kind of like Jack said, like I think the introduction of this character is very much like, you're kind of like, okay, who's this girl? And like, she comes off very vain and like shallow, and you don't necessarily maybe really like her initially. And I think just as the plot, or lack of plot, as the story goes on, I think you start to really like this character a lot, and just she is a layered character. And yeah, I remember really enjoying the movie, but I do need to rewatch it because I did mess up and I forgot to rewatch it. I think I meant to do it last weekend, and I totally forgot to do that.
You're all good. You're good.
So here we are.
You are totally good. That does it for this week, or this month rather. It's been a while. Our next episode, Lord willing, will be September 29th at 9 p.m. EST. So 6 p.m. I guess for anyone that's on the West Coast. I don't know how time zones work. They're fucky. The challenges for that month: a film by Ingmar Bergman, a film in the Criterion Collection, a silent film, and a film featuring Charles Laughton. So the question we have to ask now: what movie are you most excited to watch for the challenge this next month? I have a few, because this is probably like the best month for like movies I haven't seen, because you've got Seventh Seal, which I picked for Bergman, Persona, The Red Shoes Vampire, Bicycle Thieves, Through a Glass Darkly, Nosferatu, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Like, there's so many to choose from, but I might have to go with The Red Shoes, the pick for the Criterion movie, which I will watch with my Criterion Blu-ray, which I got for that a while ago. I'm very excited. Very, very excited.
This is a really weird month.
What?
This is not this is going to be a weird month for me, because I think most of these movies fall outside of like my interest. So even the ones that I picked are like, I picked it because I've heard of it, and not because it's like something that's in my usual like genre interests. I think overall the one that is the most me is probably Vampire. just because that is something that I would be interested in. I actually can't. I have a lot of strong opinions about Nosferatu, and if I'm correct about the contents of Nosferatu, there will be a very long rant about how Nosferatu isn't really a vampire movie, and people will be very, very surprised. But yeah, I think Vampire, especially how I plan to watch Vampire, should be really interesting. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to watch Vampire as well. I've heard nothing but great things about that movie, so that's one I'm really hyped to see. And then, I mean, two personal favorite movies are on this month for rewatches, which is Persona and The Red Shoes. So I'm super excited to rewatch those, and The Seventh Seal, but particularly Persona and The Red Shoes are some of my favorites. And so I would say my most anticipated is probably the Ingmar Bergman movie I have not seen, which is Through a Glass Darkly. Because I'm just a huge fan of him. Like every movie I've seen of his, like I think is incredible. So I'm excited to see one I have not seen.
That's fair. I've seen I've only seen 3 of his movies, but all of them are like great. Autumn Sonata in particular is my favorite. It's great. Very excited to see Seventh Seal and Persona specifically, and also yes, Through Glass Darkly. I'm not looking forward to that. It's just those two are like up there as like his best movies from what I've heard. So yeah, I'm very excited for those. Anyways, thank you everyone for watching. Once again, Andrew James Barr, our most loyal viewer, I apologize, but I will hopefully make it up to you next month. We'll see. There's probably a movie in here you'll like. I will see you later. On behalf of Melissa, behalf of Val, thanks for watching. We'll see you the 29th. Bye-bye.
Well, nobody's perfect.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.